Sacrosanctum Concilium, the Constitution on the Sacred Liturgy. Chapter 4. The Divine Office, Article 83 to 101. Jesus Christ, High Priest of the new and eternal covenant, taking human nature, introduced into this earthly exile that hymn which is sung throughout all ages in the halls of heaven. He attaches to himself the entire community of mankind and has them join him in singing his divine song of praise. For he continues his priestly work through his church. The church, by celebrating the Eucharist and by other means, especially the celebration of the divine office, is ceaselessly engaged in praising the Lord and interceding for the salvation of the entire world. The divine office, in keeping with ancient Christian tradition, is so devised that the whole course of the day and night is made holy by the praise of God. Therefore, when this wonderful song of praise is correctly celebrated by priests and others deputed to it by the Church, or by the faithful praying together with a priest in the approved form, then it is truly the voice of the bride herself addressed to her bridegroom. It is the very prayer which Christ himself, together with his body, addresses to the Father. Hence, all who take part in the divine office are not only performing a duty for the Church, they are also sharing in what is the greatest honor for Christ's bride, for by offering these praises to God, they are standing before God's throne in the name of the Church, their mother. Priests who are engaged in the sacred pastoral ministry will pray the divine office the more fervently, the more alive they are to the need to heed St. Paul's exhortation, pray without ceasing. First letter to Thessalonians, chapter 5, verse 17. For only the Lord, who said, "Without me you can do nothing," can make their work effective and fruitful. That is why the apostles, when instituting deacons, said, "We will devote ourselves to prayer and to the ministry of the word." Acts chapter 6, verse 4. In order that the divine office may be better and more perfectly prayed, whether by priests or by other members of the Church, in existing circumstances, the Sacred Council, continuing the restoration so happily begun by the Apostolic See, decrees as follows concerning the office of the Roman Rite. Since the purpose of the office is to sanctify the day, the traditional sequence of the hours is to be restored so that, as far as possible, they may again become also in fact what they have been in name. At the same time, account must be taken of the conditions of modern life in which those who are engaged in apostolic work must live. Therefore, in the revision of the office, these norms are to be observed. By the venerable tradition of the Universal Church, Lauds as morning prayer and Vespers as evening prayer are the two hinges on which the daily office turns. They must be considered as the chief hours and are to be celebrated as such. Compliance is to be drawn up so as suitably to mark the close of the day. They are called matins, although it should retain the character of nocturnal prayer when recited in choir, shall be so adapted that it may be recited at any hour of the day, and it shall be made up of fewer psalms and longer readings. The hour of prime is to be suppressed. In choir, the minor hours of tierce, set, and non are to be observed. Outside of choir, it will be lawful to select any one of the three most suited to the time of the day. The divine office, because it is the public prayer of the Church, is a source of piety and a nourishment for personal prayer. For this reason, priests and others who take part in the divine office are earnestly exhorted in the Lord to attune their minds to their voices when praying it. To achieve this more fully, they should take steps to improve their understanding of the liturgy and of the Bible, especially of the Psalms. When the Roman office is being revised, its venerable centuries-old treasures are to be so adapted that those to whom it is handed on may profit from it more fully and more easily, so that it may be possible in practice to observe the course of the hours proposed in Article 89. The Psalms are no longer to be distributed throughout 1 week, but through a longer period of time. The task of revising the Psalter, already happily begun, is to be finished as soon as possible. It shall take into account the style of Christian Latin, the liturgical use of the Psalms, including the singing of the Psalms and the entire tradition of the Latin Church. As regards the readings, the following points shall be observed. Reading from sacred scripture shall be so arranged that the riches of the divine word may be easily accessible in more abundant measure. Readings taken from the works of the fathers, the doctors, and the ecclesiastical writers shall be better selected. The accounts of the martyrdom or lives of the saints are to be made historically accurate. Hymns are to be restored to the original form, as far as may be desirable. They are to be purged of whatever smacks of methodology or accords ill with Christian piety. Also, as occasion may warrant, other selections are to be made from the treasury of hymns, so that the day may be truly sanctified and that the hours themselves may be recited with spiritual advantage. It is best that each of them be prayed at the time which corresponds most closely with its true canonical time. Communities obliged to choral office are bound to celebrate the office in choir every day in addition to the conventual Mass. In particular, orders of canons, monks, and nuns, and of other regulars bound by the law or constitutions to choral office must say the entire office. Cathedral or collegiate chapters are bound to recite those parts of the office imposed on them by general or particular law. All members of the above communities who are in major orders or who are solemnly professed, except for lay brothers, are bound to recite individually those canonical hours which they do not pray in choir. Clerics not bound to office in choir, but who are in major orders, are bound to pray the entire office every day, either in common or individually, as laid down in Article 89. The rubrics shall determine when it is appropriate to substitute a liturgical service for the divine office. In particular cases, and for adequate reasons, ordinaries may dispense their subjects wholly or in part for the obligation of reciting the divine office, or they may change it to another obligation. Any religious who, in virtue of their constitution, recites parts of the divine office are thereby joining in the public prayer of the Church. The same can be said of those who, in virtue of their constitution, recite any little office, provided it be drawn up after the pattern of the divine office and be duly approved. Since the divine office is the voice of the Church, that is, of the whole mystical body, publicly praising God, it is recommended that clerics who are not obliged to attend office in choir, especially priests who live together or who assemble for any purpose, should pray at least some part of the divine office in common. All who pray the divine office, whether in choir or in common, should fulfill the task entrusted to them as perfectly as possible. This refers not only to the internal devotion of mind, but also to the external manner of celebration. It is moreover fitting that whenever possible the office be sung, both in choir and in common. Pastors of souls should see to it that the principal hours, especially Vespers, are celebrated in common in church on Sundays and on the more solemn feasts. The laity, too, are encouraged to recite the divine office either with the priest or among themselves or even individually. In accordance with the age-old tradition of the Latin Rite, the Latin language is to be retained by clerics in the divine office. But in individual cases, the ordinary has the power to grant the use of a vernacular translation to those clerics for whom the use of Latin constitutes a grave obstacle to their praying the office properly. The vernacular version, however, must be one that is drawn up in accordance with the provisions of Article 36. The competent superior has the power to grant the use of the vernacular for the divine office, even in choir, to religious, including men who are not clerics. The vernacular version, however, must be one that is approved. Any cleric bound to the divine office fulfills his obligation if he prays the office in the vernacular together with a group of the faithful or with those mentioned in paragraph 2 above, provided that the text used has been approved.